Hello, my friends. Welcome to the video. This is going to be a part 2 of the law of forgiveness. If you guys haven't seen part 1, this is going to make no sense to you. So go ahead and watch part 1 before watching this video. But for those of you that watched part 1 and now want to tune into part 2, you understand that the audio got cut out around 7 minutes out of the 12-minute video that I produced. So this is going to make up for a brief description of what I talked about in the first part of the video on the law of forgiveness, and then the 5 minutes that I was unable to explain how to accurately assess the law of forgiveness in your life and then implement it so you can have a more prosperous, happy, and abundant life and release this terrible thing that we call unforgiveness that really just replays terrible mental movies of things that have happened in our past and holds us in a rut of living the same way year after year after year. So I'm going to break that by the end of this video, and you're going to have a clear understanding of why we hold on to unforgiveness, how to get rid of it, and how to unlock the best version of yourself. So if you haven't seen part 1, go ahead and watch part 1 right now and then click back and watch this video, because this won't make any sense. So just to briefly recap, Dr. Raymond Holliwell was talking about in his book Working with the Law, which I recommend all of you guys should get a copy of it. It's so easy. Just type it in on Google search and get a PDF of it. You could read it tonight. Literally, there's so much good information in that book. 12 laws that you should all live by, and it's really helped me in my life. I know it will help you. But anyways, we're talking about the law of forgiveness in that book in particular. And what the doctor talks about in this book is that sin and unforgiveness are inextricably linked. And sin, in the context that I grew up, I always was taught in Sunday school that the wages of sin is death. But obviously, it's not like a physical death, like you're just gonna drop dead and like you're dead, your blood stops, your heart stops. No. What it means is you're not physically necessarily dying, you're spiritually dying, because your goal is something that you're striving towards in this lifetime. And when you break and violate that law, which is called a sin, you're actually regressing, you're going backwards in life. You're not moving forward and ahead, you're going backwards away from the goal. Therefore, you're retreating into, you can look at it as like a spiritual grave. Okay. And then this is enlightenment and what you're supposed to be doing with your life. And we all have that certain urge and we know what we're supposed to be doing. Now, it's not a matter of not that we know what we're supposed to do. It's a matter of us actually doing the thing in this lifetime to bring forth what we visualize and what we really want for ourselves and for our family. But there's days where, you know what, we regress and we just want to be lazy. We want to kick back. We want to complain. We want to look at our present circumstances as, you know, this is all there is to it. I'm stuck with these cards that I was dealt with in life, instead of thinking about, you know what, how do I play this game more effectively and level up my mindset so I'm able to deal with whatever's thrown at me and push through so I can get to that goal. It's willpower. Like the reason, and this is so synchronistic, the reason that my last video cut off at 7 minutes is because my computer died. Like there's all these things going on in my life right now that are boxing me in and preventing me from doing certain things in the way I like to do them. But I have that willpower built up from working with this kind of material, working with these laws, truly understanding and building up the core essence of strength within myself. And when I'm trying to project to you guys when it comes to my videos and the way I edit and all of these things, to inspire you and to push you guys that are watching this to do your best and to not give up, to continue to strive towards that goal, that star that we've talked about in so many videos. You know, get on that same frequency of whatever it is we want. Because it's extremely easy, like what just happened with me with the whole computer crashing and me having to buy a new computer now and wait to upload, and I can't put special effects on this video, and my last video cutting off at 7 minutes, even though I worked on that video for a week. You know, stuff like that could really discourage. It would have discouraged the old me, and I basically would have given up or at least felt defeated and taken some time off. But you know what? I said, screw that. You know what? I'm going to turn on this camera right now, even though there's no editing, and I'm going to do my best to speak this information still, because someone needs to hear this information, and I'm here to encourage people. Regardless of how the setup and the presentation looks, yes, I want that to always be on point, but I also want to be a beacon of encouragement first and foremost, no matter what. I don't care if I have this flashy lights and special effects, that's all great. But because I have issues with the setup or the computer or the camera or the audio, whatever it is, I have a bigger goal and a purpose that I need to strive for. So this all ties into, it's so funny, we were just talking about this in the last video. It all strives in towards the first law we talked about on this channel, which is create or disintegrate. You're either creating, you're either moving forward and striving in life, or you're disintegrating. Nothing in this universe rests, nothing stays the same. If you look at an atom and you look at the nucleus of the atom and the electrons circling around it, that's never still. And you zoom in even deeper, at a deeper level through the microscope, and there's the subatomic particles that make up the atom. Those are never still. Everything's constantly moving. But the question is, what direction are you moving in? Because they're always moving in a certain direction. That's what we got to understand. It's never just flatlined, no movement. It's either building up or it's decreasing. And when you work with these laws, because these are laws and they're set in stone, you can't change these things. We can actually observe these things. If you go out and you observe nature, these are just natural inherent things that are set up here. If you work with these things, your life will become a lot easier. You won't have to worry about working at pushing against the tide, trying to get your boat out to your goal. You can go with the tide to it and instead work in harmony and get into a state of what people call flow. And that is truly when the spirit and what you're supposed to be doing, the excitement, really fills you up and you just are full of joy and energy to do what it is that you're supposed to do here. And it becomes almost just like children's play. It's just like easy. It's like, I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm here to do this. And you get up with a sense of excitement. It's like literally a burning fire of excitement and joy anytime you do what you know you're supposed to do inside you. So how exactly does this all tie into forgiveness? Well, we first have to understand what forgiveness truly means. And forgiveness truly means to release and to abandon, to let go of completely anything that is bothering you or is making your mind move into a negative space and direction, whether it's thoughts about yourself or thoughts about circumstances and people from your past. You're literally releasing it. Think of how close and personal a balloon is that you're holding. And then when you let it go, you're letting it go into the atmosphere and the stratosphere. Eventually it disappears in the clouds and it's completely out of your mind. You're never thinking of it again. And if it pops back in your mind, like we talked about, you have a conscious ability, one of the powers that God gave you, to reject that thought, to reject whatever is negative coming back in, because they will come back in no matter how much you think you can master this and you can master your thinking habits. Those negative thoughts of unforgiveness or the people that maybe did you wrong in the past will pop back into your mind and you want to hold on to resentment and play that mental movie over again. We have the conscious ability, because we understand that our thoughts eventually become things and events will replay themselves if we hold on to those things. We have the ability to push that out immediately and let it go. Not get emotionally involved in it and then have that thought penetrate into our subconscious mind. Because once we get emotionally involved, that's the link that attracts that conscious thought now into our subconscious. And once it's in our subconscious, it eventually expresses in action, like I talked about, or inaction. Because if you dwell on negative thoughts, you can suppress a lot of anger and hatred. And the suppression of anger and hatred is actually called depression. And this ties into my next point, because according to a Johns Hopkins medical survey, 62% of American adults say that they hold on to unforgiveness towards themselves and towards others. And the long-term effects of this was calculated by Princeton University in 2013, where they took participants and tested how their body reacted and behaved when dwelling on a negative thought for a long period of time. Whether that negative thought was guilt or unforgiveness towards someone, whatever it was that was causing them to feel negative, they wanted to see how their body reacted towards that thought. And what they found was extremely interesting and shocking. What they found was participants that held on to negative, guilty thoughts about themselves and things they had done actually experienced an increase in their own body weight, the feeling of it, at least in their mind, that they had actually put on extra weight. And what's really fascinating is they only felt this added increase of weight when they experienced feelings of guilt, not from other negative emotions like sadness or disgust. It was just when they felt that guilt from something they had done. That was what really weighed down upon them. And their conscious mind, because we have the ability to visualize, that actually made them feel like they were walking around with an extra 20 to 30 pounds. And it's this holding on to guilt that literally weighs you down And it's the suppression of anger, which actually manifests as depression. Depression is just suppressed anger that's held in. And when it's held in long enough, it actually manifests into the cells as cancer, which you're at dis-ease, okay? This turns into dis-ease. You're not at ease. You're uncomfortable because you're holding on and replaying terrible things that have happened to you or things that you have no control over anymore. And this is sadly where more than half of the population, at least in the United States, is at in a mental space. And this has a major effect on what happens in the external world because our thoughts control our behaviors and our actions. And if we're thinking negative thoughts and we're constantly replaying mental movies that are full of guilt and things we should have done and things we shouldn't have done, all these different things, we're going to either reflect in an inactive way or an active negative way. And inactive is actually negative because you're not progressing, you're not moving towards what you were here to do. And guilt was something I really struggled with growing up. I was raised by my great grandma and my mom. My dad wasn't really in the picture. I don't want to get into too many details, but my life circumstances at that age weren't the best. I bounced around a lot. And I actually ended up subconsciously blaming myself and holding on to guilt for what I believed to be causing my parents to break up. And I held on to this for so long from when it happened to my early teens that I ended up putting on a lot of weight, and those negative feelings eventually manifested into the outward form of how I looked. So I ended up looking how I felt on the inside, which was absolute trash. Fortunately, my mom took notice of this and I was able to go see a therapist where I was able to actually learn about forgiveness. And what forgiveness truly meant, and what I wanted to share with you guys, is it really is releasing, letting go and abandoning whatever negative thoughts that you were dwelling on in the past and continue to pop up in your mind, instead of, engaging with them and emotionally getting involved with those thoughts, which we tend to do unless we've had some sort of mental training with this. You examine that thought. The thought comes in, you look at it, you're like, hey, is this thought a positive thought that's going to help me produce what I want to produce in this world and help my family and help other people in humanity become the best versions of themselves and inspire people? Or is it going to, be a negative thought, a negative seed that's planted that will sprout into inaction, cowardice, fear, depression, anger, all these there's two roads you can take. So instead of examining your thoughts as, oh my God, like I got to be so paranoid about my thoughts. No. Just examine, step back and look at those thoughts before you get emotionally involved in them, and then realize, okay, which path is it taking me down? It's either taking me down this positive path where I want to go, or it's taking me down this negative path. But you have the conscious decision to choose which path you take. So the 4 things I really want you guys to focus on is, number 1, if you have any negative thoughts, push them out of your mind. You can't dwell on negative things and move in a good direction. The second thing you can do is start to love yourself. So many times we compare ourselves to other people around us, social media, all these different celebrities, whatever it is, and we forget to truly love who we are and love the progress and the journey that we're on, instead of that we're not at the end result. We continuously think in the future or we think in the past instead of being present in the moment and loving where we are and loving who we are, because we are infinite spirit having a physical experience in reality. And the next thing you want to do is have a healthy respect for what you're capable of doing. A lot of times we have no idea what we're capable of doing because we haven't really believed in ourselves truly. But there's talents and innate abilities inside all of us, inside you that's watching this video, that if you just tap into and you're courageous enough to step out, to learn it, to truly try to master something, you have no idea where that can take you. All right. And I know I'm speaking to someone that's watching this. You have that talent, you have that vision. You just got to put it into action, even if it's baby steps and small steps. Rome wasn't built in a day. It takes a long time to build a beautiful temple or a building. You got to layer it brick by right action, not just all at once. Nothing's built just like that. It takes time. So have a healthy respect for what you're capable of doing. Realize if you're not there yet, you're still on a journey. Life is a journey. We're in a circle. It's an infinite loop of progress. This is like a huge spiritual treadmill where we're having a physical reality experience here as spiritual beings, constantly progressing. The journey never ends, but we're constantly progressing. And that's what I want you guys to start thinking of life as. So any circumstances or obstacles that come at you, well, you're just going to jump over it. It's just a barrier. You're going to crawl through it. You're going to jump over it. You're going to find a way around it. And then lastly, I want you to realize that holding on to unforgiveness is a sin. Now, it may not be that they're going to necessarily bury your physical body 6 feet under the ground, but it may be burying your company. It may be burying your friendships. It may be burying your income. It may be burying your health because you're just dwelling on negative thoughts constantly. That can't move you in a healthy direction. But forgiveness releases all of that from you, and it moves you forward and in harmony and in tune with what you're meant to do in this life. So after this video, start to replace any negative thoughts or thoughts that aren't serving your best interest in your higher self with positive thoughts and healthy thoughts that are constructive and help not only you, but your loved ones, those around you, and the entirety of humanity. Humanity needs that this time. I love you all. Have a blessed day.